Clarity is everything. Without clarity, you are nothing. Like, you need a sense of clarity. Clarity will get you out of the mud. Clarity will help you become the person that you want to be. Clarity is just the magic word, to be honest. You know, you could use clarity in so many senses of life. Clarity can save you from depression, can save you from all type of negative spirals. Clarity, it is what will get you out the mud, for real, the mud of life. You know, without clarity, you have no direction on where it is that you want to go in life. You know, you need that clarity. You know, who is it that you want to become on this planet? Who is it? Why are you here? You know, these are serious questions that I feel as if everybody should ask themselves. And nobody nowadays, especially my generation, they don't care. They're just following what it is that they have been told. And there's no clarity in that. That is, you know, manipulation to the highest degree. You know, living in this school system that we partake in, so much people subscribe to what it is that they teach, you know. The Rockefellers, they designed this system of productivity to create slaves to kind of factory workers, things that they needed at that time, employees. And, you know, that is good for some people. I'm not saying that is like a horrible thing, but, you know, the people that are watching this video, I know that this is not what you want to be. This is not who it is that you subscribe to. And so I tell you, you know, clarity truly is the first step to becoming free in that sense, and to start, you know, becoming that person that you want to be. And through that, you're then able to see what it is that you even are. You're so much deeper than your name, you know, the environment that you've grown around, the situation that you're stuck in. You know, you had no choice in choosing that. You didn't choose to, like, let's say, for example, you're in the slums, you're in the projects. You didn't choose to be there. You know, it was just an unfortunate situation. But at the end of the day, with clarity, you could realize this is a temporary situation. This isn't something that has to be forever. This isn't something that I have to keep pushing on from generation to generation. I can break the trauma, the generational curse of, you know, poverty and things like that. I just use money as an example, but it could be so many things. Clarity can get you out of emotional pain. It could get you out of traumas. It could get you out of kind of hurt, all types of just hurt and things. Like, it truly is kind of the flashlight in this dark cave that we call the world. You need it to be able to move forward in life. And it truly is the deciding factor of where you end up in this life. And without it, you're just gonna drift. You're just gonna float past. And a lot of people, they don't realize this until they're like 30, until they're 25. That's a lot of people. They just subscribe to what they have been told. They subscribe to, I have to go to college, I have to get a degree, because that is just what it is. That's what my parents told me. That's what school has told me that I have to do. And I'm not, you know, beating down on college, saying that it's the worst. I think that there's a place and a time, especially, you know, if that is your passion, you know, you're passionate about being a doctor or a lawyer, something that requires that. But if you're just going just because you're trying to figure yourself out, I think that you're lacking. I think that you didn't use high school properly. I think that you're being immature. You're being irresponsible as a human being, because you have so much free time that you just spend drifting, numbing yourself, distracting yourself with pleasures, hedonism to the max. To be honest, you know, you spend all your days, all your time on that phone scrolling. You go out, you party, you go out, you spend time with friends. There isn't a single moment of just solitude or silence in your life. And I spoke about in a previous video that solitude truly is the first step to finding that clarity. Or also, I believe that clarity also comes kind of in a state of suffering. You need to give something up to gain something of equal value. And it kind of is unexpected. Yeah, in my clarity, it came from a breakup, a heartbreak. And I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting that. I was just drifting through life, and I thought that I was being productive. I thought I was doing things the right way, you know, being better than my peers by doing business models and trying at things that most people didn't have the guts to try. But at the end of the day, I was moving with minimal effort, minimal, and just a state of comfortability that was just something that you can't really afford at this type of age, where it's like, this is the time where you need to risk it all, burn the boats, burn the bridge behind, put it all on the line to become who it is that you want to be. And without clarity, yeah, you can become successful, but you won't find fulfillment in that. And like, let's say an example, like, okay, this is a bad example, but I was gonna say the lottery. You can just go and just get a scratch off ticket and make $1 million, but why is it that nobody has ever kept that $1 million? Is because they had no clarity on how to spend that finances correctly or how to manage the finances. They just go and they live it on lifestyle. And let's say other things, like let's say you create a business, like you were told, let's give example of college. You go to college, you become a doctor, you give your 10 years up of your life, you're 10 years deep into this, you get the job and you realize this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not what I signed up for. This is not who I wanted to be. But you chose that road. You chose that because it was what you were told to do. You were told by maybe your teachers, your parents, because that was their dream. That was what they wanted to do, but they failed to be that. And so they put that onto you. They kind of groomed you into believing that that's what that was. And I feel like that is why it's so dangerous when people kind of from the ages of 15 to kind of 21, they get stuck in a degree or a major and they haven't really spent any time just trying stuff out and failing and failing and failing. They just choose one thing and they just say, this is my thing. I feel like that's such a dangerous thing. And there's so much people that they do that and they all pick the same thing. Like, first of all, do you not think that there is going to be a level of competition where you guys are all fighting for the same position? And then secondly, which is the most important part, it's like, you don't even know why you want to be that. You just say that you want to be that because that's what everybody else says. And so you haven't even really put real thought into it because you have no clarity on who it is that you are, who is it that you want to become in this life. And so when you do achieve that, yeah, you are making good money. Yeah, you are. But now you're giving up 40 hours every single week to a place, a job that you don't even enjoy. You find no fulfillment. You hate your life. Yeah, you might live in a mansion, but you're crying every day. You hate your life. You hate your wife. You hate everything about your life. And I realized that clarity, like I said earlier, it truly is only found when you reach these lowest of lows. And I feel as if God, he will kind of guide you there at the right proper time when it is time that you kind of can take it, because it says in the Bible that he would never give you nothing that you cannot bear. And so you will know if you're watching this video, I do believe that you probably are at that state where you can handle kind of reaching the clarity that it is that you need to become what it is that you need to be. But just know that it doesn't come easy. It has a price on it. You must pay the fee before you pay the fine of life, which is a life that is unsatisfied, like a life that is unfulfilling. You don't want to do that. And I realized that that's why so much people, the most happiest people, they say chase your passions. And yeah, sometimes your passions doesn't pay the best, but if you have an entrepreneur type of mindset or skill set, you can monetize yourself to the highest degree. And who's to say that you still can't partake in things that make a lot of money and still find fulfillment and passion in that? How would you ever know without clarity, without trying? You haven't tried majority of things. You don't even know. And there's so much opportunity in this world. If you look around, I had heard a quote from Alex Hormozy where he said he just likes to look around the room and he thinks about absolutely every single object that's in there and realizing that there's a business for every step in the creation, the transport, and the fulfillment of those products. And so there's opportunity in everything. There isn't one set path that society has groomed you to believe. Like, you don't have to follow that. It's not something that you need to. And so, but you have to realize, now that you know what clarity takes, you have to be able to be willing to endure that level of sacrifice. You have to sacrifice maybe that relationship. I just say that because it's very familiar, or very kind of what I had to go through pretty much. You have to sacrifice maybe that friend group that is holding you back. Maybe you guys are going out partying, smoking, doing the worst of worst every single weekend or every single day. Maybe you have to sacrifice all that time that you're spending watching them shows, distracting yourself. Maybe you got to even do the smallest thing of sacrificing that music. You know, a lot of people, they can't even, I guess, exist in silence for more than a minute. When's the last time that you ever just stay in the car and just have nothing playing and just enjoy silence? When have you ever just sat with your thoughts? You know, just go take a shower and just sit there and think who is it that you are? Who is it that you want to become? I think these are very serious questions that a lot of people avoid because they're hard, they're difficult questions, because you then have to face what it is that you don't like, and that's part of the sacrifice, because it's not easy, it's nasty, it feels gross, it hurts times. Maybe you have to face trauma that you've gone through that you haven't properly addressed. And that's why I think therapy isn't such a bad thing. I've never had to go through, that's a lie. I have attended it once or twice, but it's not something, I guess, for me, because I have a deeper awareness of myself and who I am. But if you struggle to kind of self-evaluate your own thoughts and your emotions, that's one thing that can really like kind of bring light to those things, because that's why they start asking you, you know, everything about your entire life. You know, how was your childhood? How did you grow up? Because they bring light to everything, and it brings that clarity. And oh wait, maybe I did like to, you know, drive or race cars when I was younger. Why don't I become a NASCAR driver? Why don't I become an F1 driver? You know, that's just something I could throw up in the air. Or maybe I always did like construction and building and Legos and things like that. Why don't I become a general contractor? Why don't I own a construction company? You know, there's so many things that you can do. And once you do reach that level of clarity, you realize that your path is only your path. Nobody else's path is equal. Nobody else's path looks like your path. Your path is so unique. It's so unique to who you are, your skills, your traits, the things you like, the things that you just find fulfillment in. And you don't know how long your path is. Somebody's path can be about only 1 mile wide, but their path is like walking through lava, walking like hell on earth. But your path might be, you know, something as easy as a walk in the park, but it's 10 miles long. It's going to take some time, but you have to embrace that. Embrace that, because that path is your path alone. It is something that God has set for you to do. And